round the clock, learning so home. You get the education for all. Gyanwani, Gyanwani, education at your doorstep. Sonia Gyanwani.
Namaskar, my name is Shilpa Jadhav. I am teaching sociology in NJ Acharya and DK Marathi College at Chembur. Friends, today we are going to see social anthropology. In that, we are going to see contemporary anthropological theories, Marx and Marxist anthropology, Terre, Godelier, Milozox. And anthropology is any systematic study of humanity as a whole. The modern academic discipline has its origin in the democratic revolution and rationalist philosophy of the 18th century. The question then was how the arbitrary inequality of the old regime might be replaced by an equal society founded on what all people have in common, their human nature. It was thus a revolutionary critique of the premise of inequality and a source of constructive proposal for a more equal future. Such a future was thought to be analogous to the kinship organization that preceded societies based on the state and class division, and that could still be observed among contemporary savages. This framework for thinking about social development was written and elaborated in the 19th and 20th centuries. But it is no longer the leading anthropological paradigm, having been replaced by an ethnographic relativism that is more compatible with world safety fragmented into nation state. Next part, the anthropology of unequal society. The most impressive achievement of Marxist synthesis in the late 20th century, Anthropology of Eric Wolf's Europe and the Peoples Without History, 1982, against the prevailing norm of producing narrowly circumscribed ethnographies and as stand-alone example. Eric places a wide range of anthropological knowledge within a comprehensive history of Western capitalist expansion and local response, rather than adopt the tainted conceptual vocabulary of pre-capitalist state, that is, Asiatic and feudal. He coins a new term for societies organized by tributary mode of production. Jolek Goody has produced a series of volumes comparing Africa, Eurasia, insisting that claims of Western expansionism in respect of Asia are false. Goody's vision of world history was drawn from the Marxist free historian Gordon Childe's materialistic synthesis of the two great turning points, the Neolithic or agricultural revolution of 10,000 years ago, which Africa participated in, and the urban revolution of 5,000 years ago. The industrial revolution marked the third definitive stage in the history of human production and society. Childes got his basic framework from L. H. Morgan's Ancient Society, 1877. Some have seen as the origin of modern anthropology. Morgan's achievement was to draw on the contemporary ethnography of social groups like Iroquois to illuminate the ancient Mediterranean origin of Western civilization. At the same time, he identified what are still considered to be the principal stage of social evolution, that is, band, tribes and state, allowing both again for a climate and the maintenance of biodiversity and other values through carbon mitigation activities. The importance of tropical deforestation in a global greenhouse gas emission means that agreement will eventually have to be reached on how to account for the benefits of avoided and incorporate them into mitigation activities. This of negotiation in the coming month in the oak of March 2001 announcement by US President George W. Bush of his desire to range on US commitment under the protocol. Now we are going to see North-South Divide and Tackling Global Warming by Helena Borberg Hodge, 20th February 2010. As signs of climate instability increase, radical and rapid action in becoming ever more urgent, one of the biggest obstacles to global collaboration, however, has been the foot dragging and obstructionism of the US government, much of it based on the fear of giving southern economics as a competitive advantage if they are permitted to emit greenhouse gases at higher rates than the north. Yet even within the environment movement there is no unanimity on this thorny question. Should be countries of the south have the right to increase their emission as his work was made more widely accessible by Friedrich Engels in The Origin of the Family, Private Property and State, 1884, drawing on Marx's extensive note on Morgan's book, but all of them got the basic framework from Jean-Jacques Rousseau's Discourse on the Origin and Foundation of Inequality Among Men in 1754. Next part, French Marxist anthropology. French Marxist anthropology enjoyed cult status in the Anglophone world during 1970s. The crucial text was Althusser and Balbier, 1965, reading capital that brought Marxist political economy into line with Levi-Strauss structuralist methodology and American system theory. The human subject, dialectical reason and indeed history itself were in effect dropped from their scheme. A deep structure of the ideal mode of production was outlined, having three elements: producer, non-producer and means of production, whose variable combination were realized as concrete modes of production. Much attention was paid to the relationship between economic, political and ideological levels of the mode of production and to the question of which was dominant and or determinant in any given case. Althusser abandoned the ideological notion of society in favor of social formation, where it was recognized several modes of production were normally combined. A handful of French anthropologists made a substantial contribution to Marxism around this time. Maurice Godelier, Rationality and Irrationality in Economics, 1966, was the first to cross the channel. It offered another conventional treatment of the formalist substantive debate launched by Polyeu while claiming to synthesize Marx and Levi-Strauss. Godelier applied the notion of rationality not only to person but the systems, thereby setting up contradiction between structure and agency that he could not resolve. Marxism, said Godelier, can add a specific kind of function to Levi-Strauss structures, thereby allowing a complete anthropological analysis of social system. The result, however, resembles an ecological version of structural functionalism more than Marxism. Claude Missolaux, Emmanuel Terre and Fleury Philippe Ray all acknowledge their depth. Althusser, while debating ethnographic interpretation of their shared area, West and Central Africa, Missolaux, the economic anthropology of the Guru of Ivory Coast, 1964, became the main point of common reference. His later synthetic study, Medin's Meal and Money, 1981, was an ambitious attempt to compare the main means of accumulation, women, food and capital, in tribal, peasant and capitalist societies. In any essay reinterpreting the Guru ethnography Terry argued that Marxist analysis is often too crude, labeling all primitive societies in much the same way, leaving non-Marxist ethnographers free to explain their specificity by reference to kinship structure and the like. Instead, emulating the approach of British structural functionalists, he laid out a method for classifying the material base of society in great deal so that its modes of production may be inferred empirically and concrete particulars incorporated into a materialistic analysis. There is little history in this version of a historical materialism, even though Terry went on to produce meticulous histories of a West African kingdom, Plere, Philippi race colonialism, neo-colonialism, and the transition to capitalism 1971 was an original contribution to the literature on matrilineal kinship, slavery, and European penetration of the Congo, in contrast with the pre-excelling Marxist norm of merely restating what was already known in new jargon. He outlined here his famous idea of lineage, mode of production. Moreover, he spelled out the articulation of modes of production in a structure of dominance, showing concretely how colonial capitalism restructured the lineage and petty commodity modes of production in the interest of accumulation. Milazok's Guru book became a mine of parables allowing a revolved political position in France around 1968 to be expressed as interpretation of West African ethnography. Thus, on issue was whether elders' disposal of young men labor should be attributed to control of distribution through marriage exchange or rather to the organization of production. This was in effect a replay of the arguments between communist and ultra-left faction in Paris. There the question was whether the Soviet Union, in emphasizing state ownership of the means of production, was a genuine instant of socialism or rather a state capitalist society, whereas the Stalinists such as Bethlehem 1963 claimed that property relation operated only at the level of distribution and more thorough-going Marxist analysis would be based on organization of production seen from the perspective of managerial control of the work process. Russian factories were no different from capitalist firms. It is hardly surprising that these aspects of the debate within French Marxism were missed by their imitators. French Marxism disappeared by the end of the 1970s as suddenly as it had burst on the Anglophone scene. It did not survive the great watershed of the post-war history when welfare state democracy gave way to neoliberalism with its went the last vestige of central focus for debate within economic anthropology. In the period since then, Marxist anthropology has found isolated protagonists, but their voices have not added up to an intellectual movement. One beneficiary of this relative decline has been Karl Polanyi, whose institutionalist critique of liberal economics has become more prominent of late. The last 3 decades, anthropologists have turned for the first time in significant numbers to the ethnographic study of Western capitalism, usually without that critical perspective on world history that Marxism provides. The economic crisis of 2008-9 should change that by unmasking the pretension of economic orthodoxy and reinforcing the need to acknowledge our global interdependence. Under these circumstances, a review of Marxist economy anthropology is desirable and even probable, one that will hopefully pay more attention to Marx's own vision of the economy in human history than was the case the last time around. Next part, Cultural Anthropology to Postmodern Ethnography by Clifford Geertz and James Clifford. Cultural anthropology is a branch of anthropology focused on the study of cultural variation among humans, collecting data about the impact of global economic and political process on local cultural realities. Anthropologists use a variety of methods including participant observation, interviews and surveys. The research is often called fieldwork because it involves the anthropologist spending an extended period of time at the research location. One of the earliest articulation of the anthropological meaning of the term culture came from Sir Edward Taylor, who writes on the first page of his 1897 book Culture or Civilization, taken in its broad ethnographic sense, is that complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits required by man as a member of a society. The term civilization later gave way to the definition by V. Gordon Childe, with culture forming an umbrella term and civilization become a particular kind of culture. The anthropological concept of culture reflects in a part of reaction against earlier Western discourses based on an opposition between culture and nature, according to which some human beings lived in a state of nature. Anthropologists have argued that culture is human nature and that all people have a capacity to classify experiences, encode classification symbolically, that is in language, and teach such abstraction to others. The rise of cultural anthropology occurred within the context of the late 19th century, when questions regarding which culture were primitive and which were civilized occupied the minds of not only Marx, Freud, but many others. Colonialism and its proceed increasingly brought European thinkers in contact, directly or indirectly, with primitive others. The relative status of various humans, some of whom had modern advanced technologies that include engines and telegraphs, while others lacked anything but face-to-face communication techniques and skilled, lived a Paleolithic lifestyle, was of interest to the first generation of cultural anthropologists. At a later stage, the socio-cultural anthropology got split into cultural anthropology and social anthropology. Even today, this split is not reality accepted all over the world. As a matter of fact, before discussing social anthropology and cultural anthropology, we must retreat the meaning of sociology, as we said earlier, varies from continent to continent and in fact from society to society. The diverse tradition of anthropology are very successful, elaborated by Erikson. He has also discussed the anthropological tradition prevailing in France. Then after the Second World War, cultural anthropology has been replaced by structuralism. This brand of structural anthropology is proposed by Claude Louis Dumont and the distinguished structuralists such as Marxist Maurice Godelier and others. Erikson further informs that in South America, Italy and the Iberian Peninsula, and partly in Belgium and Netherlands, the French orientation is strong. We now dwell on the definition of cultural anthropology as given by the eminent American anthropology. In USA, trace on cultural anthropology is led with the objective that man is more than merely organic man, he is cultured also. But by knowing the culture of the society, we can better understand civilization irrespective of time and place. It is with this purpose in mind that cultural anthropologists study other cultures of the world. The American culture anthropology also include archaeology, that is science of what is old in the domain of this discipline. Similarly, stress on culture study has also created ethnology, the science of people, as specialty in the USA. Erikson, in his book Small Places, Large Issues, has provided the ethnology of the concept of cultural anthropology. According to him, culture originates from the Latin word "glori", which means cultivate. He defines cultural anthropology as below. Cultural anthropology thus means knowledge about cultivated humans, that is, knowledge about those aspects of humanity which are not natural but which are related to that which is acquired. Here Scovittis is also anthropologist. He has defined cultural anthropology in very precise way. He observed cultural anthropologists study the ways man has devised to cope with his natural setting and his social millennia, and how bodies of custom are learned, retained and handed down from generation to the next. For cultural anthropology, social system is a part of society. Culture cannot emerge without a social system. One reference has given for this, S.L. Doshi and P.C. Jain book, Social Anthropology, from Rawat Publication, 2011.